Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Creative Roots podcast. This is an Imrana Mahmood production, commissioned and presented by Revolution Arts, supported by Inspire FM and Arts Council England. On today's podcast, we're going to be talking to Mira, who is a mother of two and a creative freelancer. So I'm going to go straight in and say hello to Mira. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me, Imrana. I'm all good. I am great. How is Ramadan going for you?
Alhamdulillah, it's going so well. How is it going for you?
Great. Honestly, I feel like the whole vibe of the month is just amazing. It just gets you into the right kind of flow, into the right kind of element, really. And I honestly look forward to it throughout the year. I mean, which is a shame because I should be like that throughout the year, but it's just something about this month which is different from the rest, really. So
Yeah,
it's going.
absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely, completely agree with you there. So in terms of obviously we've got this podcast, we're talking about creative roots. You obviously attended recently one of the workshops that we had delivered a little bit earlier on, just before Ramadan. But my first question really to you is what does creativity mean to you?
Right. So, Imrana, that's a beautiful question. Honestly, creativity, the term, it's so vast. I don't know if I'll be able to describe it the way I really want to, but just generically, uh, basically, I think creativity to me is a very internal and a very exclusive process. It's how you internalize your feelings and add meaning to whatever it is that you're going through or whatever it is that you want to express your ideas, your thoughts. It can be anything really, in a creative manner, in a manner that gives you the ability to connect with the outer world, your inner thoughts, the workings of your mind. So that's what creativity is to me.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you take a more holistic, a more general outlook to it, then it just flows so beautifully into so many more things. To me, it can be an act of worship, and an act of kindness, literature, philosophy, art, anything really. I think anything and everything is creativity as long as it's just how you look at it. So
Yeah.
that's what creativity is to me, really.
Yeah, no, and I love that you said that. Definitely. I mean, the idea of it being an act of worship, I think is, so beautiful. It really can be, isn't it? Because I guess depending on what you're doing, or so many facets of like kind of being creative involves just being really present in the moment and kind of, and I think that definitely, does lend itself to that kind of spiritual aspect. So obviously we've spoken a little bit, about Ramadan. And so how do you think engaging in something creative, how does that influence your connection to like your faith during Ramadan? And obviously you kind of engaged a little bit with the workshop. I think it was a calligraphy workshop in the run up to Ramadan. But yeah, so how did that kind of foster that kind of faith connection?
So I think, firstly, I'd like to mention that the seminar, the session, the workshop that I attended, it was amazing. And in the brief moments that I was sitting there, I felt like this real connection, not just with the speaker, but with everyone in the room.
Mm.
So I think that's also what creativity is to me. It's just such a free-flowing process, a free-flowing thought process. If anything, creativity just strengthens your connection with God, with your own self, with everything around you, really. There's just so much connection that I feel in the month of Ramadan, and I think creativity has a lot to do with it. Like I said, I think creativity can be anything. It can't be defined really. So even if it's an act of worship, even if it means you reciting the Quran, playing surahs in the background on the television in your house, just communicating with your kids, speaking religion to them, sharing stories of prophets with them, I think that's all creativity because there's a certain degree of mindfulness that creativity fosters. And that's when you realize that, there's a higher being sitting up there who is managing your affairs. Even though if you compare your own self to the vastness of the universe, you are just this small, like a small chocolate chip in a big cookie, maybe, right? Yet there's God who's sitting up there, who's listening to you, who is getting you to do things, who is motivating you to be a better person every day, not just in Ramadan, but just generally as a human being too. And of course, that all falls under the umbrella of creativity to me. It
Mm.
helps you become a better version of yourself. It helps you connect with God. It helps you conduct yourself in a better manner.
Mm.
Because it's just creativity, it's very generic. Like I said, it can't be defined. So to me, it's a form of spiritual connection, a form of spiritual expression. It's art, it's mindfulness, it's gratitude, it's self-reflection. So creativity is all that to me. Like I attended the calligraphy workshop, and there was so much that was going on in my whole body, in my whole brain. I think that was all creativity. It was all the creative juices that were flowing through, and I could just feel that sense of being, that sense of just connecting with God in those brief moments that I spent in that workshop. So I think in today's world, that's required. You have to take some time out for yourself. You have to connect with yourself so that you can be a better version of your own self. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's what creativity does. It's so empowering. The realization is so empowering that you are being creative.
Yeah.
That's what it is to me.
No, and thank you so much for sharing that reflection because I think you're right, you kind of mentioned, so much in terms of that aspect of storytelling, which is such a massive part, I guess, of our kind of heritage as Muslims,
Yes.
having that oral tradition. But then, yeah, like you said, that aspect of mindfulness and oh my God, and I loved your metaphor of the chocolate chip cookies. I've said it's the first time I've, I love it. It's so great, so. No, no, absolutely. Really, really kind of feel, what you're the sense of what you're saying, and then, is there something particular about calligraphy that kind of drew you to wanting to attend, the workshop in particular? Is it something that you've had an interest in before, or did you just want to attend to kind of learn something new?
Yeah, so basically, growing up, I've had been very passionate about calligraphy, but because
Mm,
life's just been so fast paced that I haven't really gotten a chance to pursue it like I'd want to. You're studying, you're being a daughter, then you get married, you're working, you're being a mom. So there's just so many more roles that you're playing that being creative or kind of like being true to your own self, your own passions just takes a backseat. So which is that is what drew me to this towards this session, towards attending this session, because the whole structure and the way it was designed, it was very exciting, I was very intrigued. So I attended it, and it was all that. And in those, like I said, in that time slot that I was given, it was just me being my own self and working towards something that excites me, working towards something which fuels my, not just my religious connection, but also my spirituality. And there's a lot of cultural symbolism, I think, traditional and cultural symbolism as far as calligraphy, henna art. These are the most uh, I think, the most celebrated forms of art in our culture, in our heritage. So, henna, calligraphy, even our outfits, there's just something about all these things that draws you towards them. So, I'm very passionate about calligraphy, but really haven't gotten a chance to kind of like pursue it the way I wanted to, which is what drew me towards this workshop.
No, no, and that's great to know. And hopefully, kind of, moving forward, hopefully there'll be more kind of opportunities to kind of engage in these sort of kind of workshops and sessions. And obviously, you've kind of touched upon, culture and identity. And obviously, this podcast is called Creative Roots. For that very reason, it's really about delving deeper into, I guess, both the historical significance of why certain creative elements are part and parcel of certain cultures, let's say, and obviously this the podcast and the workshops themselves have been something that obviously I've been commissioned to do by Revolut and Arts, and again it's in collaboration with Inspire FM and supported by Arts Council England. So like on that topic of kind of creative roots, how might that kind of help, I guess, shape, yeah, someone's identity? So you've kind of already touched upon it, but yeah, maybe to just go a little bit deeper into that.
So basically, I think identity, like creativity, is something which is a mix of both, in my opinion, internal,
Mm,
how you're perceiving your own self, your set of experiences, your values, and your religion. They define your identity. These are just some of the many internal factors, also where your creative roots are very strongly embedded. But that mixed with some societal, some external factors, it is what makes up your identity. Because you're constantly growing as a person, and your identity is also evolving as a person. That's what I think, and I think that's how it should be for everyone, because you're not born with everything. And even if there are certain traditions, certain kind of anything that's passed on to you. For you to be able to believe in those things, for you to be able to carry them forward, you have to really resonate with them. You have to believe in them yourself to make them a part of your own life and your own identity. So for me, I was born into a Muslim family, and I am so grateful for that because I've studied it myself. It's not just because I was blessed, I was born into a family that I just accepted it, embraced it as my identity, but because I take immense pride in being a Muslim, because I've studied about it, I have grown up, I have interacted with other people, and my experiences have shaped my identity to the point where I feel like I just couldn't have been what I am today had I not been a part of this culture, this religion. So I take immense pride in that. It's just your identity is just how you're conducting yourself now in today's world, and a large big chunk of that is defined by your religion, by your culture. So I think that's what your identity is. That's what defines your identity. And your culture, it's just you can see it through your practices, your what you're wearing, how you speak, how you conduct yourself. That's all given to you from your culture. That's my understanding. That's how I perceive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, it is that thing where it's something which is always evolving, isn't it? You're always evolving,
Yeah.
developing in that sense of your identity. I mean, cultures, even that, I guess over time things change and I guess how people adapt and I do mean this. I mean that was one of the reasons again for like I mean obviously it's called Creative Roots in terms of the podcast, but it the idea was for it to be a play on words in terms of roots being kind of a journey, certain pathways that we might follow. So I think it's what you said is absolutely true. And I guess my last question really is that you mentioned at the moment, I guess, how we are developing in terms of how identities and how we're interacting, I guess, in some ways with creativity. um because of like the current the social political climate and so much I guess going on in the world, how do you think creativity might enable like peace and unity in the world? Because peace and unity is one of the themes for Inspire FM's themes for this year. But yeah, any thoughts that you have on that?
Yeah, so basically, I think we're living in hard times, no
Mm,
denying that.
mm,
Um, it's just whatever is happening around the world, it's just terrible times to be alive, honestly. And amidst the chaos, I think creativity is something that anyone or everyone can connect with, irrespective of your race, your culture, your language. It's just something because it's very personal, but also because it doesn't have a language, or it can't be defined by a particular religion, by a particular set of people. It's just something that God has bestowed upon, like, it's just inbuilt, right? So I think creativity as a form of expression is what is required in such terrible times for you to be able to connect with others. It fosters growth, it encourages inclusivity, diversity, because you're embracing creative process. You can't judge someone for their creative process if only you can learn and grow more, and try to connect with them. When you learn more about somebody's creative process, that's the language creativity speaks. So I think for that for that reason, uh, to be able to live in a harmonious world, to be able to rise above religion, class, your socio-economic status, I think to rise above all these material things or material concepts, it's important that you're connecting with other people over such things. So
mm,
creativity is just so broad and it can't be defined, which is why I think it gives you all the more reason to connect with others, to be more inclusive, to be more open, to be more flexible,
mm,
um, um, and just to accept others, to be more empathetic. It just leads to all of those things. That's my
mm.
a very
Yeah.
positive outlook. It gives you a positive perspective
Mm.
towards everything, really.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just what I
Yeah.
think how it can foster
Nice.
growth and just lead us to be better people and just live in a better world, really.
Yeah, and it's such a wonderful perspective to have as well. This idea of, it being a source of learning, but also kind of, like you've touched upon a couple of times in terms of fostering connections. And I guess to some extent transcending those labels as well, isn't it? And then, like you said, just coming together for I guess that one aim of, yeah, just being creative together, making something together, and there's so much beauty in that. Um, Mira, thank you so much. It's been such a joy speaking to you today on the Creative Roots podcast. This is an Imrana Mahmood production, commissioned and presented by Revolution Arts, supported by Inspire FM and Arts Council.